All right, okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you let me know if y'all can hear me and see the screen? Yes. Yes. Perfect. Right. Okay. So, okay, I think it's been some time since we've met. Okay. Until I think the others also join, and maybe I'll just give. There's a few updates that I need to give on my end. So currently, where are we? We are going to start the essay questions for unit number 8. So we'll start off with the 2011 paper, right? 2011 will go on until around maybe the 2015, 2016, right? And then we'll do the remaining papers the next week. And ideally by next week, unit number 8 will be done. And then we'll be doing unit number 9 and 10. 9 and 10 will be doing it together actually, right? Not separately, since both the units are almost connected and together, and there is only one essay question from that unit. We will be doing that unit together. So even the MCQs and the essay questions, starting from not the next week, the week after that, that is 9, 10. And once 9 and 10 is done, then we only have 11 and 12 left, 11 and 12 alone. I think we will focus only on the MCQs and not on the essay questions. We'll see. If we have time, we'll focus on the essay questions also, right? If not, we'll maybe manage with the MCQs and get things done. Okay, on your end, apart from that, few other things to keep you all updated on. I think I would have passed this message around as well on your groups. Guys, did you all get registered? There was this free seminar thing that I sent, something called Target, a free seminar. Yes, registered. No. There was a message that went on your BYC group in case you have missed it, right? Do register. It will be a good session, right? It will be there will be around 12 free seminars that will happen for the English medium, 12 around 12 13 for the singular medium. So in total that it will be a thing that will go for the entire month of October, and also we will be discussing the most difficult topics in each of the subjects. So it's accounting, BS and econ, not any other subject. It will be 2-hour sessions per session. So ideally for one subject, you will have around 4 sessions, right? So let's say four sessions for BS, 4 sessions for accounting, 4 sessions for econ, right? So it will be something like that. And then so you can register. It is open for both English medium and singular medium students. So if there is any of your friends, anyone even from the singular medium, right, please help to pass that message around. It's totally free. It will be done on Zoom and on YouTube live. So either you can join through Zoom or you can join through YouTube live, and you could get that sorted, right? That is about the seminar part, guys. About the model paper book, right? A lot of you all have texted. Okay, so currently I think they have got the books kind of printed. They're working on distributing. So ideally, I feel towards the end of this month or maybe within another week or so, you all should be ideally able to get your model paper book, right? All your orders have been placed, guys. We know I have also got a lot of messages. Don't worry about that. So that ideally you should get by, I'll say, at the very beginning of next month. So all of my fast track people, right, I'll get in touch with you all. So I can send that book along with my fast track tutor itself. So there is no delivery or there is nothing, but otherwise there is a small delivery charge, I think about 150 rupees, right? But fast track people and my 2022 people, any of you all are here, I'll send it along with my tutor itself, so that there is no additional delivery. I'll get in touch with you all. I'll get in touch with how many people have actually bought it and sorted it. So that is about that, about the seminar, about the model paper book. And I think fast track people, I asked you all for topics as well for the seminar with what you all wanted, and that is sorted. The topics are sorted. So for econ, the topics will be, I think I told my fast track people also, but I'll just keep everyone updated. For in the seminar, the econ sessions, right? The topics will be, there will be a part on national income accounting, right? National income accounting and the calculations, and also maybe the production boundary, what is included, what is not included, right? One section like that. Then we will have another session on this maximum prices, minimum prices, all those calculations on everything. Then there was exchange rate determination, right? How exchange rates are determined and stuff like that. Then on the different monetary policy tools and maybe the fiscal policy tools and that. Yes, there is credit creation also. So likewise, there is a few sessions like that, guys. So we will look at minimum around four to 5 sessions. So if we can find more teachers, then we can accommodate more sessions. That's that. The YouTube page of the seminar, the seminar is not yet started. It will start on the 1st of October. I'm hoping you all have registered, right? If you all have not registered, then you all will not get the link or anything, right? So do register, and also for all those who register also, Icon Business School is the main sponsor. They will be ideally giving you all discounts for maybe SIMA or ACCA if you all are planning to do it after A levels, right? They'll give you all a discount there on that end, and for all those who participate. So maybe you might not be able to come for all days, but at least get yourself registered and have your name in that list saying that you were there in this seminar. So it can be useful someday in case if you decide to do SIMA or decide to do this thing. Guys, how to register, guys? I would have sent you all the message on the BYC group. Just go and check the chat on the BYC group. I would have reminded you all around twice also. There is an entire message about a whole thing in your Beyond the Classroom group. There is this thing. And also, in case you all do register, please pass the message on to any of your friends also, maybe even from the singular medium, right? We actually don't have much students from singular medium. Message has not gone out. Mostly, there is around 1,300 students who have currently registered. And from them, mostly it's English medium, around, I'll say, 800, 900. So the message has gone around with the English medium students, but it has not passed on to the singular medium students actually. So it's like a public good, don't worry. Just because one person comes doesn't mean the other person can't come. So no rivalry. So if there are people that you all know, English medium, singular medium both, just pass that message on with that registration link so that they could also register and they could also pass it on to someone else. Okay, right. Will the class be separated? Yes, the class will be separated. Obviously, will be separated. It will be separated, guys. The English medium will be a different one. The single medium will be a different one. It will not be a combined one because then there is no point for it. That doesn't make sense, right? So yes, the class will be separated with the language. So 12 separate sessions for English, 12 separate sessions for single. Right. No questions. I think okay. 10 minutes down the line, we'll start. Where are we? Okay, we need to start off with the essay questions for 2011. Okay, so this is the 2011 A level, the essay question. Right. So if you talk of this paper, if you look at the entire paper, yes, do you all do the papers? No, try, give it a try. No, the essay questions, unit number 8. No, yes. Like, yes, so most of you all have, some of you all wouldn't have, but yes, by now I'm hoping that you all would have finished your past papers. Yes, anyone completely done with your past papers? 2011 to maybe 2020. It's done and dusted by now. I think you all should have completely finished, but at least if you all have not, right, at least try to finish it off with BYC, right? You need to ideally have finished your past papers by now, right? That's okay. Very little people have finished it, right? So if you have finished it, means you are on track, you are doing good. Okay. And also I think will the exams postpone, that I don't know, and that should not be your concern as well. You need to focus on somehow getting it starting and somehow finishing it off. Right. Okay. So 2011 A levels, question number 7, part 1. Okay, what are the main economic functions of the government? Right. So what does the government do, guys? What is the role of the government? Or what are the functions? What can we put out here? Speak a little louder. Okay, I think you maybe try leaving and joining. don't know what exactly. Right, guys, can we get in the roles of the government? What are the roles? What and what has the government done? Economic function. Functions means what they do. What do they do? What do you think their roles are? Okay, maintain. Okay, maintain equity in income distribution. Okay, in income distribution. So they will want to maintain there is equality there, right? Then provide macroeconomics. Okay, maintain macroeconomic stability. Okay, macroeconomic stability. Then, okay, impose rules and regulations. But what are the main ones, guys? We'll get in the main ones. Okay, establish economic growth. Okay, that's the main one. Establish economic growth and development. Okay, and then what can I say about resource allocation? What can I say about resource allocation? What does the government do? What can the government do on resource allocation side? Hmm? Hmm. So you can, right, ensure efficient allocation of resources. Is all the other answers that you all told me, right? You all give me like 100 other answers. Comes under this. I'll show you all how those comes under this. Right now, some of you all told me imposing taxes. And these are the main roles, right? Now, if you look at imposing taxes, why do you impose tax? Why does the government impose tax? Right? They impose tax one mainly to maintain macroeconomic, sorry, not macroeconomic instability, to maintain fair income distribution, and also even when it comes to externalities, to ensure that there is efficient allocation of resources, they will do that, right? So you can say impose taxes inside this, right? Imposing taxes can be inside this, right? Now, if you look at efficient allocation of resources, inside this, you have 100 other points, right? Now, for example, provide public goods, right? Provide public goods, provide merit goods, right? And then what? Discourage demerit goods. Okay. What else? Protection of this thing. Even if you can say rules and regulations to protect competition, right? Let's say rules and regulations to what, to promote competition, to protect competition, right? Then again, so you can put all of those, right? Remember that these are the main four functions, and usually all the other stuff that you all told comes under one of these. So ideally, now when you all are writing an answer, okay, don't write efficient allocation of resources and then another point don't say providing public goods, because what you all don't realize is providing public goods comes under this efficient allocation of resource goal. So be very clear there. Maybe you can maybe put in headings, maybe like say, okay, under this, there is something like that. That gives the examiner a good impression saying, okay, this guy knows his stuff, right? So likewise, you can structure your answer, right? So you all gave me more and more answers. I did not put everything into that. But remember, your answers can come into types. So these are the main stuff that they do, right? And then there are rules on simple things on how to remember is you can also remember this using the reasons for market failure, right? The market one fails because of income inequality, right? So the government comes in to maintain equity in the income distribution, to maintain equality. Another reason that the government, the market fails is because of macroeconomic instability, right? So the government comes in to make sure there is macroeconomic instability. So what do they do to make sure this? They have the fiscal policy, they have the monetary policy, right? They do things like that. So all of that comes under here. So they run the fiscal, and there is more policies than this, right? Monetary policy. So they run these. So this comes under this part over here, right? So Like I'm saying, don't give the same thing again. Don't give the same thing twice. Don't give the heading and don't give a point under it when you are writing. So maybe the main heading and also maybe stuff under that. And then establishing economic growth and development. That's not really a reason for market failure, but then the market fails because of inefficient allocation of resources, right? There is no proper allocation of resources, market fails. So it's the government's duty to come and provide efficient allocation, right? So what do? Market doesn't provide merit goods and stuff in the required quantity. Market underproduces those. So they're giving those. Market doesn't provide public goods. The government comes and provides those. So likewise, you have that thing happening. Okay. That is for question number 1. Things that you could write. Then, if you look at question number 2, what is meant by a pure public good case? Right? Okay, yes, guys, you can also talk about externality. So solve externalities, all of that become here. Okay. What is meant by a pure public good? Yes. Now, when you get a 2-mark question, you simply need to define, right? So you can say a good that is collectively consumed, all right, and also given the 2 characteristics. And what are the two main characteristics? You can say a good that is collectively consumed, and what else? And then non-rival and non-excluded. Yes, so I'll copying and pasting your answers on the chat box. So if you can highlight these 2 points, guys, I think it's more than enough for 2 marks. I'm not going to go into detail on what a public good is now, right? So we would have discussed all of that some time ago. Okay, so just giving this set. Guys, don't worry about that. Okay, that is collectively consumed, and also a good that is non-rival, meaning there is no rivalry, there is no competition among consumption, and also there is no excludability. So if the person doesn't pay, you can't stop him from consuming the good. So put in those points, give a small definition, talk about the 2 features. That's more than enough for question number 2, because why? It's only a 2-mark question. If that was a 4-mark question, then you can go a little bit in detail, talk about what is non-excludability, talk about what is non-rivalry. Then you can say, okay, because of this non-excludability, the market doesn't provide this, right? The market, free market economy does not provide it. It leads to public goods market failure, right? So you can go into that if it was a 4-mark question. But for a 2-mark question, you don't really have to go in there. Just say, put a definition, right? Non-excludable, non-rival. All right, that is that. No, not needed for the features. Okay, so then give 1 example each for the following externalities. A negative externality, positive, da 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 da. Okay, so can you all give me examples each for these externalities? What can we say? A negative externality in production. What kind of things can we put? A negative externality in production. Yes, so you can talk about. Okay, okay, so you can talk about, yes, factory waste. You can talk about damage of the ozone layer. You can talk about emission of smoke, right? So in simple terms, I'll just put air pollution, right? I will talk about water pollution. You can go into detail, okay, on how does this actually happen. You all can go into detail, and you all can explain. So air pollution, you can say factory, maybe water pollution, factory waste being put out, maybe air pollution, maybe smokes, maybe different stuff that goes. Okay, so that I'm hoping you all know. Then a positive externality in production. What can we talk about? Any activities that give positive externalities in production? What kind of thing? Research and development, yes. Okay, so you can talk about, you can talk about things like training, right? Vocational training and all of that, right? And then you can talk about this. What's the next one? Research and development, right? R&D, right? So you can all come into these, right? So these would be better points and things like that. So you can talk about, yes, different infrastructure and so now when you say infrastructure, guys, it can go both the ways, right? It can be good also, it can be bad also. So I would not like to put in infrastructure always, because now, for example, right now, let's say you build a new highway next to somewhere near the house. Yes, the land prices goes up, it's good, right? But sometimes on the other same side, right, if you build some, I don't know, something else, maybe it's too noisy. What if you come with the airport next to your place, right? It's going to be way too noisy. Your land prices and everything is actually going to go down then, right? So yes, beehiving, nice, right? So this can be actually good one, right? So beehiving and all of that. Okay, so things like that you all can put it. Then if you talk about C, negative externalities in consumption, okay, disposal of garbage, smoking, okay. Please don't say demerit goods there though, right? They're asking you examples. So examples where situations where these negative externalities are created. So you can talk about disposal of garbage, right? You can talk about smoking and maybe alcohol, right? So whenever you consume those, okay. Okay, so whenever you consume these kind of things, there are negative externalities that get created. Yes, vandalism to all of that. And then part D, positive externalities in consumption. Okay, receiving education, right? Vaccination prevent disease. Nice. So I'll just copy and paste it exactly from there. Okay. For example, okay, now one small thing, right? You can get a question on the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. I just remembered a positive externality, right? On they can put a story about this entire vaccine story, and they can ask you, why is this vaccine leading to market failure, right? Okay, few things about, again, some new things that I remembered about COVID-19. Now on that model paper book that I spoke about, there are a few questions on COVID-19 about a maximum price on COVID-19. That's a good question. I have the question, but I don't want to share it with you. It's not ethical for me to share it. So if you all, any of you all, if you have paid that 600 and purchased that model paper book, there are some interesting questions on that. On the COVID-19, the vaccine, where the government has put in a maximum price for this. It's a essay question. It's a maximum price question, which most likely can be a question that can be tested in your thing. So what happens because of the maximum price? What are the consequences and stuff like that? So you all can, now it's a normal maximum price that we have learned, right? They can connect it with the pandemic, right? So even this vaccine story, they can connect it to unit number 8. So it's a positive externality in consumption. So they can ask you, the government has started vaccinating and all of that, but whatever said and done, this leads to market failure. Why does it lead to market failure? Why does this entire vaccination thing lead to market failure? Because what? Vaccination is good. Why is it leading to market failure? Come on, getting vaccinated is good, but why market failure because of the vaccine? Okay, so simple context, guys. Vaccination is a positive externality in consumption. So when there are positive externalities in consumption, what happens? Are these goods are ideally underconsumed, right? Or underconsumed, or you can say they are underproduced. So what does that mean? That means we're not allocating enough resources for these vaccines. Okay, so things like that, you all can connect it with the positive externality diagram, and then you all can explain. So just keep those in mind, right? I don't know. I'm not saying 100% for sure it will be tested, but it can be tested somewhere, right? Somewhere down the line, they can put in, because what are they looking at? Also, the examiners, whenever possible to test some new question, they test, because without asking for the same thing over and over and over again, right? If they get an opportunity, they will put in a new question from somewhere, they will test. So get ready and go. Like, all what you have to do is all what you already know, try to apply it a little in more practical context. Okay, so that is question number 3. Okay, done. Then we'll talk about question number 4. What are the major sources of tax revenue in Sri Lanka at present? I think I would have given you all an entire list on this thing. So can you all give me, shall we talk about 2019 first? Okay, 2019, what are the major sources? Remember, guys, if did I paste the thing anywhere? I paste it anywhere that entire diagram. Yes, can someone give me a question number that I would have pasted that central bank thing? Okay, this one. Mhm. Now I'm going to copy and paste that again. Give me a second. Just go this. Okay. So yes, when they say major sources, right? And when they say now, so they said recent past, right? So when they say at present, right? Ideally, it could even be 2019 or even 2020. But whenever you're writing, right? Whenever you're putting your answer, you need to be specific. You need to say, okay, this is from 2019. This is from 2020, because actually from 2019 and 2020, these things actually changed, right? In 2020, the major sources changed. So I think I would have highlighted this in detail on when we did the MCQs. So when you're writing your answer now for this example, right? When they say what are the major sources of tax revenue, you can say in the year 2019, these were the sources. So what was the main one? It was VAT. It was 3% of the GDP. If you look at income tax, that was number 2.8% of the GDP, and then excise duties or excise taxes 2.7. Then you can write another heading and say in the year 2020, right? Excise duties were the highest, 2.2, income tax and VAT. If you realize, guys, in the year 2020, what has happened? Our tax income has actually fallen, right? Why has it fallen? Right? Because of, again, the pandemic, right? So digging deep, maybe go into the central bank reports, see what has happened and all of that, right? So no, I don't think here you will need values for this question. I don't think they're asking you for values, but it will be nice though if you can give in numbers. If you can give in numbers, that creates a very good impression on the examiner rather than just saying excise duty, VAT, and this thing. It is. And also, guys, now when they say major sources of tax revenue, there is no they are not asking you to mention it in order. No? So you don't have to mention it 1, 2, 3 orders. But again, it will be nice if you can do that, because that impression matters, guys. Because then the examiner knows, okay, this guy knows his stuff. So rather than just randomly writing the 3, 4 names, if you can maybe take in an extra minute, say, okay, 2019, these were the ones. This is the percentage. But ideally, guys, give 4. Okay, now when they are giving, okay, sorry, 5 marks, so give 5 things. So apart from these, also talk about import duties, and then you can dig a little deep and talk about what are the other taxes that they have. Actually, there are so many other taxes, right? Dig in deep and find out. Now go to spoon feed here. Okay, so that's the tax sources. Now, guys, in this question, it's not a must to mention the percentages. They are not asking for it. But if you all know it, it's nice to write, right? Gives a better understanding. Gives you better what impression. Then, if you talk about this, over 17% of current expenditure of the government comprises of transfers to households. Identify 5 major items coming under this expenditure category. Now, again, I think something that you all can definitely get from the central bank itself, right? So, yes, pensions, food subsidies, some of the benefits. Let me see if I can get the central bank report. Hold on. CBSL report. 2020. That's it. Fine. Done. My video is getting stuck. So. Okay, it's loading. Give me a second. Okay, so you go to the fiscal policy chapter, right? You should be able to find all of that information about what and what is important, what and what are the highest percentages. It's a very simple question, guys. Now, these things you all need to know, right? Because it's a very easy question. If you look at this question that came this year, that year, it's a very simple one, right? If you look at government expenditure, first part is on revenue. Okay, so we'll talk of expenditure, we'll talk of the current expenditure, capital, Okay. So government transfers, right? Now, even guys, now even that COVID-19, that 5,000 that they gave, that could also be considered as transfers. Okay, so look at the current transfers that they have, right? They have some of the benefits, right? They have pensions, they have fertilizer subsidy, they have something called a food subsidy. So under other only the rest of things are there. I will try to dig deep and see what other stuff that is there. Hold on. Okay, here you look at okay, look at this diagram over here. This gives you 4 types. Right? This okay. Okay, so if you look at the diagram here, there is 4 answers already what you need for your answer. Okay, so there is samurdhi, there is pensions, there is fertilizer. Under this, you can have under this there is food subsidy. I remember. Any other parts guys that you all can remember, or do you want me to dig deep into? Hold on. Expenditure on pension, social security, schemes. Here, COVID-19 stuff here. Things on this. Okay, yes. Okay, providing school and uniform textbooks. Yes, that's the thing. Here, this thing now, right? Currently, the new one, right? Now, guys, again, can be a question on current transfers, right? The 5,000 that the government gave here, the expenditure incurred on healthcare and other related activities to deal with the spread of the pandemic, right? Those kind of things are there. So remember those small things, right? Please just be in touch with the central bank report. That gives you a lot of information, right? That trust me, you can answer a lot of things with the central bank report stuff as well. Gives you a better understanding. So I want you all to get working on those, right? So what are the major items? So I'll just type it for the formality purposes. What and what do we have? We have the main one is pensions, right? We have pensions. We have some of the benefits. We have fertilizer subsidy, right? Fertilizer subsidy. You have food subsidy, right? Food subsidy. Then the expenditure on textbooks, right? Textbooks and uniforms, right? Is a current transfer. So likewise, guys, you all can put in a lot of points. So can you see when they just tell you identify, when you say identify, guys, they just want to this food stamp. Where did you come across that? It's like a tax though, not a big amount, but like taxes and stuff. Yes, have you heard something called a stamp duty? The stamp duty is now, for example, when you're transferring land and stuff like that, you need to put a stamp, right? I don't know, like a big amount of stamp, something like that. Not the exact same, but something like that. Good stuff. Okay, right. That's 2011. Shape, yes. I don't think there is problems in this question. Everyone, all right? Everyone, all right with this? Yes. Yes, food stamp was what I was just talking about. Okay. Yes, you were dating. Right. Easy question, no? Okay. We go to the next one. 2012. Again, one of the easiest. Okay, this is usually the easiest question in your part B. Okay. Hold on. Little bigger. Okay. So 2012 A level. So we look at 2012 A levels. They start with define and give an example for each of the following categories of goods and services. Easy question, right? Global public goods, common resources, and quasi-public goods. So how are we going to define? Guys, can you give me definitions so that I can copy and paste? What? A global public good. What is a global public good? What's a global public? What can we talk about this? So ideally, guys, a good, right? It's a public good that gives benefits, right? That generates benefits to the entire world, where the benefit from it is received by every single person in the world. So things like world peace, things like even for example, ozone layer, right? Things like knowledge, right? All of those are global public goods. Now, if you look at maybe the knowledge that is there on the internet, right? Global public, the atmosphere, yes, all of those, right? So if I am to put this thing, right? So public goods where the benefit is received by the whole world, right? That's something that you can simply put, received by the whole world. And then you can also say, now, if it's a public good, it also has the characteristics for a public good, right? So it's non-rival, and also non-excluded. But those characteristics are there. In addition to that, so examples, what we can give, we can say, we can talk about the ozone layer, we can talk about world peace, right? You can talk about knowledge, right? So you can put in things like that. Okay, I'm hoping that's fine. School security, fine. Then the second one, they're asking you to define common resources, guys. When you okay, nice, I have got that. Right? Okay, so when you have to define it, guys, you define it with the characteristics itself, right? Now there is no definition that you say for common resource. So you can say common resources are the goods, right, which are non-excludable, but they're rival in consumption. For example, fisheries. Now when one person goes and fishes, right? Let's say we'll talk about him fishing with a fishing rod or something, right? So then it leaves less for the other person, right? So they are rival. There is some sort of rivalry in these common resources. But what is it? Non-excludable. You can't stop a person. I want to fish, I can come and fish. No one can come and stop me there. And even if I don't pay a price, I still should be able to go and fish. That's common resources. Then these are very basic stuff. That's why I'm not going into detail. Okay, nice. On quasi-public then, right? So on quasi-public goods, makes my job very easy, to copy and paste. Right. Quasi-public goods, we say the goods which are excludable, and there is rivalry, right? There is rivalry in consumption. So what are these type of goods? Now, for example, if you take museums, highways, and all of that, right? Now, those goods, there is no real okay, they are excludable, and there is no, not rivalry. You can say usually there is non-rival, right? So there is non-rivalry in consumption until it meets full capacity, right? So this could be the point. So it's usually non-rival, right? Now we take museums, highways, and all of it. There is no rival in, right? Just because I go doesn't mean you get less of it. But the moment it reaches full capacity, then there is rivalry, right? So until it reaches full capacity, so non-rival until it reaches full capacity, and excludable though. You can tell now if you're not going to buy the ticket for the museum, they will not let you into the museum. So it's excludable as well. So it's a higher price can be charged to limit consumption. Which good? Quasi-public? These quasi-public goods and stuff, they are under-consumed, right? So usually now, if you look at why does these quasi-public goods lead to market failure? Why are we studying this under reasons for market failure? Is because these quasi-public goods, highway and stuff like that, right? The price that they charge is greater than the marginal cost. Okay. Now, if you look at it, how much is the ticket for the highway, guys? Maybe if you're going from Colombo to Galle, ticket price 400, 500, 300. I've never gone in a long time. How much is the price now? Anyone who would have traveled? 250? Colombo to Galle? Okay. So let's say it's 250, right? That's the price that they're charging. What is the additional cost to the government of providing that service for you? Of you going in the highway? There is no additional cost really, right? Just because you go in the highway, there is no cost that is being created. So what happens is they charge a price that is much higher than the marginal cost. Now, for example, okay, let's say there is a small cost. Let's say, I don't know, maybe at least that printing ticket cost. Okay, now they need to print a ticket for you or a bill for you, or they need to monitor you. Maybe let's say, okay, there is, let's say, a cost of 50 rupees. The marginal cost is 50, but they charge a price of 250. Why it leads to market failure is that, now let's say there is someone, right, who is willing to pay 150 and go. Will they let this person go? The marginal cost for the government is only 50 rupees of you traveling in this thing, right? Will they let you pay 150 and go in that highway? Yes or no? If the ticket price is 250, they will not let you, right? They will not let you go in. So because of that, what happens, guys, right? Even a consumer who is willing to pay a lesser price, but way more than that marginal cost, he does not get that opportunity to consume it, right? He does not get the opportunity to consume it, meaning these goods are under-consumed. Quasi-public goods are under-consumed. Why? They charge a price much higher than the marginal cost. So even a person who is willing to pay a little less, right? Even let's say 240 rupees, right? He will not get that opportunity to go in. So they're usually generally under-consumed. Marginal cost is not considered based on rivalry, guys. Marginal cost is based on the marginal cost itself, the additional cost of providing that good. There is no rivalry connection there. Okay. That is why these quasi-public goods lead to market failure, guys. Those you all need to know, right? Okay, why does common resources lead to market failure? If you all know the unit, please, if you all know the unit, right? You are studying common resources, you all study quasi-public goods. Whoever would have taught you all should have taught you all that, right? You all study that under market failure. Right? If you look at the overall topic, the bigger picture, you're looking at market failure. Under that, you're talking about public goods, merit goods, all of this. So why is this common resources leading to market failure? I know you all know that it is non-excludable and rival, but why market failure? Because of this. There is market failure because they are overconsumed, guys. They are exploited, right? So since these common resources, since there is, it's again non-excludable, since you can't charge a price and all of it, right? What happens is people exploit it, right? People keep on using it over and over. Yes, you can call them the tragedy of the commons, right? So they overexploit it, thus it leads to market failure. So when you're studying a unit, know the overall picture. What is there? What is the bigger picture in this? Don't just memorize, common resources are unexcludable, this. No, right? That should not be the point. The point should be, okay, you're studying this under market failure. Find out why is this leading to market failure, right? So things like that is important, can be questioned. But in this question, they're not asking all of that. But that's what you all need to know. Done. Okay. Then question number 2. Distinguish between statutory tax incidents and economic tax incidents. Again, a very easy question. A statutory tax incidents and a economic tax incidents. What is the story over here? What kind of things do we write here? Economic and statutory. Okay, what is statutory tax incidents, guys? Oh, even something we call the legal tax incidents, right? Tax incidents. Exact. That's the person who is legally responsible to pay this tax, right? That's the statutory tax incident. Now, for example, if you put a tax on cigarettes, right? Whom does the statutory tax incidence falls under? Right? Whom does the statutory tax incidence falls under? If you put in a what? Tax on the cigarette. The statutory tax incidence? The legally who pays the tax? The government. It's the producer, guys. It's not the consumer. It's passed on to the consumer, right? But who goes to the Department of Taxes and pays this tax? If you have not paid the tax, who is responsible? Who will be held accountable for that? It's the producer. It's not the consumer. Yes, they pass it on to the consumer, but the statutory tax incidence is on the producer. Statutory tax incidence means who is legally responsible to pay the tax. If the cigarette company has not paid the tax, they are not going to come and ask the consumer, why didn't you pay? Right? They're going to ask that producer, okay, what happened? Right? Why didn't you pay? They're going to ask the tax company. Sorry, not the tax company, the cigarette company. That's statutory tax incidence. Then what is economic tax incidence? Economic tax incidence. What can you say about this? Okay, Refers about who's nice. Okay, so it refers to what? It refers to uh, whose income is actually affected due to the income, right? Due to the tax. Now, why is guys, why is there a difference between statutory tax incidents and the economic tax? Now, economic tax incidents mean statutory means who is legally responsible to pay the tax. Economic tax incidents means, right, who actually pays or who is burdened by that tax. Why is there a difference? Why isn't if I am responsible to pay, why isn't my income the one that is affected? Why is there a difference between this? What is the reason there? Exactly. The difference comes because taxes can be shifted because it could be passed on. Now, if you look at, let's say now the good example that we were speaking of before, right? The tax on these cigarettes, right? If you take a tax on cigarettes, right? The legal statutory incidence is on the producer. Like he has to pay it. But is it his income that is getting affected? No, he's passing that on to the consumer, right? He's passing it on to the consumer, so he's increasing the price of the cigarette. So it's the consumer's real income, it's the consumer's income that is affected. Yes, the producer is legally responsible to pay that, but the producer passes it on to the consumer, right? So when he passes it on to the consumer, what happens? The consumer bears the economic tax. In which situations is the economic tax incidence and the statutory tax incidence the same? When is it the same? Yeah, that also same story can happen. Right? So when it's a direct tax, exactly, when the tax cannot be passed on, right? When you can't shift, now usually direct taxes. Now when you take, let's say for example, income tax, right? Income tax is put on your income, right? So statutory tax incidence is also on you. You're the one legally responsible. And also the economic tax incidence, it's your income that is actually affected. So then it's the same. In a direct tax, both of these are the same. But in an indirect tax, the statutory tax incidence is with one person, the economic tax incidence is with another person. So those kind of differences are there. And then now we said this differs based on the ability to shift, right? There's a difference in this if you can shift the tax. The ability to shift the tax depends on what? These are additional things that you all need to know. The ability to shift the tax. When it's an indirect tax, you can shift. Ability to shift it depends on what? Exactly. That depends on the elasticity, right? Elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. Usually, who bears most of the tax? The party that is more inelastic or the party that is more elastic? Who bears most of the tax burden? Exactly. The party who is comparatively inelastic will bear most of the tax burden. So those are things that they can connect and they can put everything together and put it in your question, guys, right? So rather than just asking statutory and economic, okay, they can talk about the tax shifting. They can ask you, what does it depend on? So do have an overall picture, okay? Because they might not give you the same question. They might modify the question a little in your ear. Yeah, I feel that can be a question that can come, right? Tax evasion and tax avoidance. Good. Yes, what is tax evasion and tax avoidance? Okay, which one of these is legal from tax evasion and tax avoidance? Okay, which one is illegal? Which one is legal? Okay, so if you look at tax evasion, that is illegal. Tax evasion is illegal. Where you need to pay the tax, but you don't pay, right? You do some fraud, or you don't report it. Oh, that is tax evasion. That's illegal. Tax avoidance, right? That is where you try to find these legal loopholes and try to reduce the amount of tax. Now, for example, now if they say let's say now, for example, okay, let's say uh, okay, I'll give you a simple example. Okay, not a business context. Because let's say, okay, they say if you own 3 or more property, you have to pay taxes, right? So let's say there is a rule like that. You need to pay taxes on your land and on your house if you own 3 or more property, right? So what you will do is, right, now instead of writing this property under your name, you might write it under your wife's name, or maybe your child's name, or maybe your parents' name. then you're not the owner of that. Yes, that is your property, but it's under your, let's say, wife's name. So that now you're not doing anything illegal, right? But you're avoiding the tax. So let's say you have two property under your name. The third property, if you go and put that under your name, you now have to paying taxes for all the three. So what you do is you write that third property under your wife's name. That's tax avoidance. You're not doing anything illegal, but you're avoiding that tax, right? You're somehow finding the loopholes and all of it, and you're avoiding. So another example I can give, for example, they say now let's say companies, right? Uh, Based on the profits of your branches, right? So based on different profits of your branches, you need to pay taxes. So let's say they say, okay, if the profits are more than 100,000, you pay taxes. So what you do is now let's say one branch has a 150,000 profit, other branch only has a 40,000 profit. Let's say, okay, so 150,000 profit branch, you need to pay a tax. So what we try to do is we will try to reduce the profit of that branch, put some profit of that to the other branch, so that both don't have to pay taxes. That's tax avoidance, right? So tax evasion is where you do something illegal, where you don't pay, or where you show wrong figures. That is illegal. That's tax evasion. Evasion is illegal, right? Avoidance is legal. Guys, these stuff are things that you can easily Google and learn, guys, right? There are so many videos and so many stuff on those. I remember even I learned this by watching a YouTube video once when I was doing it. So those kind of things, guys, on your end, do that. Now, any problems, guys, any questions, any things that you'll come across, one-stop solution is to go to Google, right? Go to Google, maybe search on YouTube. Trust me, you can learn a lot of things, guys. That's now on our end, right? I'll just tell you, right? When we were doing A levels, we did not have these Zoom classes. We never had given the teacher's WhatsApp number, right? So there was no chance of clearing doubts. There was no chance of this thing. The physical classes with 200 fellows, the only time you might ask a question is sometimes towards the after the end of the class. For the entire year, I think maybe around not entire year, entire maybe 2 years that we did A levels, maybe around 3-4 times I would have gone and asked a question from sir after the class. Right? That's all. You don't in the middle of the class, you don't raise your hand and ask them. I don't know. I didn't have that much of guts to ask that. I don't know if you all do have that, but I would have never in the middle of a class with 200 fellows raised my hand and asked, sir, what is this? So on your end now, so on those days, if we had a doubt, the first thing we do is we go to Google. If we go to Google, we try to figure it out on our own. Right? So on your end also, I would want you all to do that, because you all can, there will definitely be areas that you all don't remember, that maybe your teacher did not touch into very deep. Google, guys, learn those. That is how people before your time did it. You all are the ones now being a little bit more spoon-fed than earlier. So, okay, right. Done. Then this one, question number 3. I'm hoping we're okay with this. What is meant by neutrality of taxation? What is neutrality of taxation, guys? There's a lot of questions on tax here, no? What is neutrality? Neutrality. Neutrality is not really equity. What is neutrality? Exactly. Neutrality means a tax has to be efficient. It means that you need to say that a tax should not do what? Should not disrupt the resource allocation, should not affect the decision-making process of people. Now, in simple terms, the tax should not create a deadweight loss, right? Now, if you look at, right, remember in unit number 3, right, in unit number 3, when you talk of taxes, right? So in unit 3, now when you talk of this entire graph of tax, okay, so there is the demand curve, there is the supply curve. When there is a tax, what happens to the supply curve? What happens to the supply curve, guys? When there is a tax, supply increases, decreases, shifts to the right or shifts to the left. It decreases, right? Shifts to the left. So this means there is no neutrality, right? So neutrality principle is saying that when a tax is imposed, right, it should not affect a consumer's or producer's decision. It should not affect that resource allocation decision. But now in our unit number 3, when we studied these taxes, right, Moment the tax is put, the supply is reducing, right? There is a distortion that is created in the market. Okay. So as a result, what happens, because the supply is reducing only, guys, we have something called a deadweight loss. If you all realize, there is something called a deadweight loss here that is being created. So neutrality is saying that this deadweight loss should not be created. Now, if you are directed, that deadweight loss is a bad thing, right? It's a reduction of consumer and producer surplus that no one is getting, right? So that is where we are saying there is no neutrality. So for neutrality to happen, there should not be a deadweight loss. How will there not be a deadweight loss? If the consumption or the production decision is not affected. Now, in our context, in unit number 3, we study sales taxes. When we put a sales tax, the production decision is affected. They reduce their tax, they reduce their supply. Because they reduce their supply, only that deadweight loss is created. If that supply curve never shifted, then there would have never been a deadweight loss. Right? So neutrality means, in very simple terms, that when a tax is imposed, it should not, right? The tax should not, right, affect. Again, these are things that you can Google, okay? The decision making process of consumers and producers, right? So in other words, it should not, so if it doesn't affect the decision making process, then it should not create an excess tax burden, or in other words, what? Deadweight loss, right? So excess tax burden, or you can say a deadweight loss. So it should not create one of those. Guys, this is not tax charge fairly, that is equity, guys. Tax charge fairly among income earners, that is equity. You have vertical equity, horizontal equity. Don't confuse equity. I'm hoping I did not explain the wrong thing. Guys, can you just recheck your answer? I'm 100% sure that is this, but now given that you are getting questions, this is right there, yeah, okay. Right, so this is what neutrality is. Don't confuse equity with neutrality, guys. Equity is where you have this. Yes, this is also called efficiency, right? So you can also call this efficiency as well, right? So that's neutrality. Okay, is it enough to write this much? No, ideally you have to write a little bit more, right? You can maybe explain the diagram, you can go a little bit more in depth, right? But no, for this, I think it's enough because they're only asking you for a 2-mark question. So for a 2-mark question, I think it's enough. But if it's a 4-mark question, maybe you could have started with you maybe started the explanation, gone into a diagram, explained, small parts of that, and done all that. So this is a 2-mark question. I would say it's enough there. Okay, right. That's neutrality. Then coming to question number 4. Distinguish between primary deficit and net cash deficit of the balance of payment. Okay. How do you calculate the primary deficit? Or the primary account balance, not the balance of payment, of the budget? How do you calculate the primary account balance? You would have done these calculations. I would have shown this to you in the central bank report itself. It's your total revenue, right? Total revenue minus your total expenditure. Okay, total expenditure excluding interest payments, right? So excluding interest, that is what your this part is. So you can say, what is the other way of calculating this case? Your primary account balance. Yes, guys, with grants also. So total revenue including grants. When I say revenue, unless I say excluding grants, so you can say total revenue if you want. Okay, if you want to be more specific, with grants, exactly. So minus. Okay, so the other way of calculating this, right? Now, if you look at it, for the overall balance, you add the interest payment, guys. Right? You add the interest payment back. You don't minus the interest payment, guys. You add the interest payment back. right? So you get this thing. Okay. So overall balance plus the interest payment, you might get this. Because we don't minus, we add it back. Okay, now for example, okay, which one is greater? Is your primary account balance greater or your overall balance greater? Okay, say that it's a surplus. Which one would be greater? Which one would be higher? Think and tell me. Which one would be higher? It's your prime. Is your primary account balance going to be higher or your overall balance going to be higher? Your primary account balance is going to be higher, no? Why is your primary account balance going to be high? Because when you calculate the primary account balance, you from the total expenditure, you omit the interest payment. So you're only deducting less, right? Let's say total expenditure is 100, interest payments is 30, you're only deducting a 70, right? So the primary account balance is higher than the overall account balance, right? So let's say your overall balance is a 70, your primary account balance, let's say, is 100. So how do you go from your primary account to this thing? The difference is the interest. So you add back the interest, right? You add back the interest, you get to this. So usually now in our context, you have a negative, right? Our overall balance, let's say, is a negative 70. So that does not mean you minus guys, you still add the interest. So you add the interest, you get overall balance of 70. Okay, that's how that comes here. Yes, so excluding means without the interest payment. Now, for example, now if you remember this whole story of economic profit and accounting profit, not related here, but what was higher? Accounting profit was higher. Why was accounting profit higher? Because you excluded the indirect cost in accounting profit. In accounting profit, you only minus the direct cost. You did not go and minus the indirect cost. So accounting profit was higher. So same story here. In the primary account balance, you're not deducting the interest payment. You're excluding the interest payment. Yeah, that's how. Okay. So that is about this thing. Then so you can write about this, right? You can just what you can do is, guys, now when they ask you to explain the difference here, now you don't know to write pages on this, right? So simply the equation itself explain, right? So you can say the primary account balance takes into consideration the total revenue including grants. So maybe you can go into little detail, say total revenue comprises of tax and non-tax revenue, and also grants. You can talk about there are foreign and foreign grants too, right? So and then you can say it's the difference between this total revenue and grants and the total expenditure excluding the interest payment. So what you have to do is the same thing that you know, right? The equation, you put it into 2-3 lines, and after that, after you put it to 2-3 lines, you again write the equation also. That's what they expect. At your level, they are not expecting you to go into very detail on what a primary account balance is and go into that, right? So that's all. Then, okay, on the net cash deficit, okay, the difference between, guys, what is this then? The net cash deficit, I've got one answer, perfect. On this case, the net cash deficit, guys, when you get net cash deficit, what is this? Okay, so I'll copy and paste an answer. So I got, right? So this says the difference between total government receipts and total government expenditure. The right word is receipts there, guys. When you say net cash deficit, you're looking at the cash flow, right? The receipt, that word is important, right? So, and total government expenditure, excluding amortization payment. Guys, what is this amortization payment? I would have told you all what is amortization payment. What is amortization payment? Exactly. These amortization payments, in very simple terms, guys, is your loan repayments, right? Your loan installments that you pay. So net cash deficit is the difference between the government receipts. Hey, now I'm hoping you all know now if you all are doing accounting. You all know the difference between this cash and this thing, right? Now, for example, if you say there is a income, and let's say if you say 500,000 is your income, you would have not got that entire income in cash. You all know this accrual basis and all of that. Yes. even your sales revenue, you are not collected in cash. No? So that is the difference between here. Now that here we say income, right? So maybe part of this income you have not yet got, but in net cash deficit, right? You're not going into income, right? You're going into receipts here. We're looking at the cash side of it, right? You look at the cash. You don't look at the that comes from. I don't want to get into accounting on the accrual. I hoping you all know this accrual basis and stuff. Now, if an income is supposed to come, you will record it as income, right? Maybe if that income has been earned, you record it as income. But if you take into accounting side of it, right, you have not yet received the cash, right? So maybe you are going to receive that a few months later. Okay, so now, for example, let's say this, right? So let's say one of you all, right, for my fast track, you all say that, sir, I need 1 week extra to pay, right? So you need 1 week extra to pay your class fees. Let's say that is the case, right? So on my end, right, I will tell you, okay, fine, fill in the form, right? And let's say automatically there is income statement being made. So that monthly class fees will be recorded as income, but it will not be recorded as cash because I have not yet got it. It's an income because you have confirmed that you're coming. You are saying that you need a little bit time to pay. Fine. Income is recorded, but not as cash. So in net cash deficit, we don't look at the income. We look at mainly the actual receipts that we got, the actual cash that we have got. There is a small difference because there is sometimes that accrual basis, there are delays. Okay, amortization payments, guys, again, like I've highlighted before as well, these are the loan installments that you pay. Right now, if you look at the government, they need to pay loan installments of how many loans we are taking now. We're taking loans and loans and loans. So at one point, it starts getting, it's due. No, loans that we would have taken like 5-10 years ago, it's due now. So we are paying now. That is what you call the amortization, the installment that you pay. Okay. Right. That is that. Okay, so in simple terms, guys, just write those equations, explain that in simple terms, you get your marks. And then the final one, identify the major non-tax revenue sources of the government of Sri Lanka. Non-tax revenue sources. What can you put in? So let's see if the central bank has something. You have small stuff. Revenue. Okay, here. Okay, you have a few here. Guys, revenue, guys. Revenue means expenditure, not. Sorry, revenue means income, not expenditure. Right? Okay, here. Non-tax. Profits and dividends, 1%. Okay, they're asking for revenue, right? Not expenditure. Yeah, guys, revenue. Don't write samruddhi and interest. Samruddhi and pension payments. That is this thing. Okay, so you have these, right? Profits and dividends, 1%. Rent and interest income, 1%. Fees and charges, 4%. Is what you can do is you can break it a little, right? You can now, for example, you can break rent income into one, you can break interest income into one. So you can put in two answers like that if you really want to, right? Now, profits and dividends is almost the same. Don't break that though, right? But you can break it. So if you more details, again, central bank report will tell you guys. You go into parts here, it will talk about revenue from income. Okay, let's see. There should be a paragraph on this. Revenue from national trade. Okay. Okay, so non-tax revenue. Non-tax revenue declined. What are the components? Okay, here. The fees and charges, that is one. Profits and dividends, that is one, right? Fees and charges, profits and dividends. Let's say if there is more. You can talk about social security contribution, revenue from social security contribution. Yes. Yes, lottery. You can put in stuff like that, and then rent and interest income, central bank transfer distributed profits, stuff like that. Yeah, so basically, guys, from those components itself, right, you can get it. Now, this is a matter of, being aware with the central bank report, being aware what is happening, right? Yes, sale of capital goods, lottery. There can be different things, property income, yes, right? So, yes, now see, if you look at this question, right, if you look at this question that comes from unit number 8, okay? So there are parts that you need a bit of your unit number, right? as it is there in your syllabus. It is there. Non-tax revenue is there in your syllabus, right? So those kind of things, okay, you can get from the central bank report itself. So I'm hoping you all figure things out, and I'm not going to type this because if anyone did not go through, you can jot down these, right? So these kind of things you can jot down. So in addition to these, so okay, so in addition to these points, profits and dividends, rent, interest, this and stuff, you can say sale of capital assets. Then you can talk about what lottery income. You can talk about what else? Even stamp duties and stuff can go on this. Yeah, that should be enough. It's 5, no? So that will make a complete answer there. Yeah, fines. Yes, you can talk about fines and stuff like that. So make sure that you all know the component. That's 2012. Right. Are we okay? There are questions. Shape 2012. Yes. No. Anyone? Issues? Problems? Fine. Okay. So we go into 2013. That's that. You'll want a 2-minute break. 3-minute break to walk around. 2013. Yes. Okay, so I'll give you a break until 8:15. Just walk around, maybe drink some water, do something, and come. 3 minutes, not so long. I'll anyway finish by 9. Take a break till 8:15 then. And come. I'll also have some water and come. Okay, right. Must be back. Hoping your small water break is done. Okay, for some reason I never fell asleep last night. I don't know why. Maybe because of the photo that I ate did not digest. So I don't know. I ate at around 12 o'clock at night. Never fell asleep. And too much of road track stuff on my head also. I'm having nightmares of road track also these days. Thinking of what is going to happen and what am I doing. Stuff that keeps worrying, you know, I just can't be badly waiting for the year to be done and everything to be done and dusted. And then next year, degree is done, this is done. I don't know classes if I will continue or not, but I will be somewhat of. Is anyone of you all, do you have like an ambition that you all want to be? Someone you all want to be? What do you all want to be? Something that even I could get some advice. I actually don't have like a proper admin ambition. A CEO there, ambassador there. No ambition. Journalist, software engineer. Right. Therapist. Nice. Event designing, planning. Nice. Psychologist, accounting. Because in my case also, I don't know what I want to be though, but I'm doing something. Like I don't know. Teaching is not really my ambition. I think I can do something a little bit more than teaching. Because I felt teaching is nice. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think I can have a little bit more than teaching in me, I feel, which I can do a little bit more than that. I don't know, but we'll see how things go. Maybe next year down the line, I might not be teaching. Let's see how all of it goes. But yeah, 2013. The only thing I don't like about teaching is the competition, guys. Sometimes it's disgusting. I'm not in here for the money. I'm not in here for anything else. It's the satisfaction, obviously, on my pocket money. That's a different story, but I'm not doing it in large scale to do different stuff. But sometimes, you know, there is so much of competition that is created, and then you have different teachers spying on you, and then, you know, they come to your class and see what you're trying to do, and then they copy the exact same thing, and then some people steal your tute and they make their from your tute they make their tute, they copy they steal your paper and do that things. I don't know, stuff like that disgust me. Now personally, I have not copied questions or anything from any. I've maybe got questions from past papers and turned things around, but I've never taken it from any teacher. I've not copied it from any teacher. I've not stole a single thing. If if I can make my own note, if I can make my own questions, I don't see why people who have been in the profession for so long do that. And because I've had teachers who start stealing questions and papers from me where they have been teaching for around 10-15 years and they're stealing my questions, which I came only very recently. Not that I'm going to say anything, but disgusts me sometimes. That is one reason that I don't like this industry for some reason. It's not, it has become competition for some reason. I don't know, the true essence of it is kind of lost. It's not the tuition, not the teaching. It has become like a tuition. It has become a entire tuition industry, and the profession is a little, I'll say, a bad image is being created. Something that I don't really like, something that I would maybe stay away if I can. Right, okay. 2013. 2013 levels, question number 7. We start off with the first part. Why might market fail to allocate resources in an efficient manner? Will accounting be held? Will exams be held in November? Most probably it will, guys. For God's sake, don't take a break of whatever that you're doing right now. So what happened to all results? All of a sudden they said it's coming in the evening, it came at night. Right? So things like that can happen, right? All of a sudden they make a decision, teacher strike will end, exams will happen. Right? So don't think that it's going to be postponing. And I think they're going to start giving the vaccine also now. I think they've started giving the vaccine for all these disabled kids. And I think after that, they will start giving it for the normal people also, like you and me. So you all should get the vaccine ideally maybe 1 or 2 weeks from now. They might start giving you all the vaccine. So meaning that they're preparing you for your paper, and maybe maximum they might give you like maybe might delay it by 1 or 2 weeks your exam, but it's not going to be a huge postpone. There is not going to be things like May or day level when there is nothing going to be something like that. Somehow it will happen, right? Because if that is delaying, there's a lot of other things that will delay accordingly, right? So it will be most probably compulsory to get yourself vaccinated. Guys, get yourself vaccinated, right? Don't bother about the type of vaccine, because all the vaccines are effective. Yeah, so don't worry about that. That I have got 1 dose. I have not got my second dose yet. From uni, they gave us the first dose. I need to get the second dose there. But it's been 1 month now since I got it. I don't know when I will get the second dose. We'll see. Right. Okay. Question number 7, part 1. Why might markets fail to allocate resources in an efficient manner? So this is market failure due to resource allocation. Right. So what are the reasons, guys? Right. So yes, existence of externalities, of externalities. Then you can say non-provision of public goods, non-provision of public goods, right? You can talk about under provision of merit goods, okay? Over provision or over consumption, over provision of demerit, okay? Demerit goods. Then not the existence of pure public goods, but the non-provision of pure public goods leads to market failure, right? So overconsumption of common resources. Okay, so just copy and paste. These all in simple terms, they're asking you reasons for market failure on the resource allocation side of it, right? So put in different reasons, you all should be able to write. So imperfect competition will come under this, right? So where you have monopolies and stuff like that, that leads to market failure. So likewise, guys, you just have to put in around 4 points. That's that. Then the next question. This question is a question that I also have an argument, right? But then question number 3 is on why, with the help of an appropriate diagram, explain why there are too many motorists than the social desired in Sri Lankan roads. Now, if you look at motor vehicles, right? People traveling in motor vehicles, is it a consumption thing or a production thing? Motorbikes, is it a consumption or a production related? It's a consumption related thing, right? Motorbikes. But if you look at your answer, just check your answer. I know in my past paper book, the diagram that they have drawn is a negative externality in production diagram. It has to be a negative externality in consumption. Motorist is people traveling in motorbikes. That's not production, that's idle consumption. Check your past paper book. I don't know. That is what my past paper book. I don't know if my past paper book is wrong. The diagram is on a production diagram. They have drawn two cost curves, not two benefit curves. Diagram is a production diagram, right? I'm also not very sure. Maybe I don't know if they corrected it when they were talking of the paper marking in the paper marking panel, or if they have done some correction there or given marks for both. That I don't know, because I'll check and let you all know if you all want to. But I feel that question has a small problem. The question does not have a problem, but the problem there is in the answer. So in the answer that they have given, as far as I remember, even while I was doing A-levels, I remember this question very well. There is a problem. So I will check maybe with a few other teachers also, maybe, and I'll let you all know. But ideally, right? Okay, so inverses tutorials give production. So then we'll go with production. I'll explain the production part of it, right? So we'll go with that. I'll give you a more logical explanation as to why we went with production and not consumption there. Okay. Maybe I'll check with Imran's also. Okay. So with the help of appropriate diagram, okay, because of excess consumption, we consume, excess production, we consume. Okay. No, guys, I'm talking about the diagram. Are you drawing two cost curves, or are you going to draw two benefit curves? So, okay. So explain why there are too many motorists than social desired level. So I will go with the answer that they have given, but I personally believe it's a consumption related negative externality, but we'll go with the actual marking scheme answer. The marking scheme answer talks about a negative externality in production, right? So they talk about a negative externality in production because of this. So what are they talking about? They're talking about right? So they are saying that because of this motorist and all of it, right, there is a negative externality production. So how do we draw the diagram? We draw the diagram, right? If you're drawing a negative externality production, do you have two cost curves or two benefit curves? What do you have? You have two. In my answer, it's shown as a negative externality consumption. Really? Can you maybe send me an answer? Send me the picture. You draw two cost curves, right? So they explain about negative externality in consumption. The answer talks about negative externality in consumption, right? But the diagram they have drawn is wrong. Past paper. Okay, I also have the past paper answers. Okay, if you look at the answers here, right, that is the problem that I have. The graph there is wrong. It's a negative externality in consumption. That's what I'm also trying to say. Okay. Okay. This is the PDF that I have. I also remember there is a problem there. Okay, this one. Yeah. Okay, so see, this is a case of negative externality consumption. Agree. That's what I also said. Right. But if you talk about the diagram that they are talking, right? Now, when you draw a negative externality consumption, right? We don't talk about the two cost curves. We compare the benefit curves. So that is what I have the problem here. I'll just read again. Social benefit is less than private benefit. They say social benefit is less than private benefit. Yes. However, private sector decisions are taken only private benefit and under consumption. Consumption. Fine. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll show it to you with a different diagram, right? We'll go into this. So we'll go into negative externality in consumption, and I'll explain the consumption part. We'll make that correction. I think the paper would have done that correction. Should be now. It can't be a printing mistake because I think the entire marking scheme is. So it's a negative externality concern. That's number one, right? That's one thing that you need to realize. So why it's a negative externality in consumption? When you look at motorists and all of that, right? These people traveling in the bike, right? So it's not a production thing, it's a consumption. So what we can do is you can say in a negative externality in consumption, what can you say about the externalities? What can you say about the externality? What is greater, private benefit or the social benefit? Which one is greater? The private benefit or the social benefit? The private benefit is greater, right? The private benefit is greater than the social benefit. So what happens then? The private sector, what do? They overestimate that benefit, right? They think it's high. So what happens? Do they overproduce or do they underproduce? Oh, underconsume or overconsume? Since the private benefit is higher, they overconsume it. They think that the benefit is very much high, right? But they don't look at the actual society's benefit. So they overconsume it, right? Meaning there is a negative externality, as they overconsume. So if you draw the diagram there, right, you draw a negative externality in consumption diagram. We'll change the diagram that is there in the answer scheme. Okay. So we'll draw one cost curve, we'll draw two benefit curves. Okay. So this one is your marginal social cost equals marginal private cost, right? The thing that is over here. This one is your marginal social cost equals marginal private cost. Okay. From these two curves, what is this curve? Is it the marginal private benefit or the marginal social benefit? The curve on top. It's the marginal private benefit, right? The marginal private benefit is the higher one. Okay, so you draw the marginal private benefit there, and then you have the marginal social benefit, the below one. Right? The benefit to society is lower than the private benefit. So you have this over here. This is the marginal. Okay, this board is so annoying at times, it makes me so slow, right? So this is the case. So ideally, if you look at it, right, where should the society be producing? Where is the socially desirable level? Now, this by now you all should be knowing, right? The social desirable level is where the marginal social cost is equal to marginal social benefit. This is where this is the social desirable level, right? The red one. But where is free market equilibrium? Free market equilibrium is in this green point, right? So what are they doing? They are overproducing. They have to be producing at the red amount. Okay, this is quantity wise. This quantity, this is the price or the cost, right? So they are over consuming it, right? And they're also charging a price that is too high. So with the help of diagram, why are there too many these things? You can talk about this. You can talk about where the private benefit is much higher than the social benefit. So people overestimate the benefit, and as a result, they end up over consuming it. So same thing. Now your answer there is right, but the only thing, the diagram there is wrong in your past paper. So you can, this answer is right, this part is right, right? But where it goes wrong, it's over here. Right? Negative externalities on production. I'll explain negative external production maybe when we come to a question. I think there are questions to come on that area, right? But it's a very basic area. Is know the four externalities on the diagrams and everything. Okay? Examples, diagrams, how the government can correct it, and all of that. Okay, is that fine? Yes, shape question. The diagram here is wrong, guys, in your past paper. Unless your past paper says a different diagram, my past paper diagram is wrong. Okay, guys, now same thing like this, right? Now this same question. Now see, can you see this entire motorist question? Now they can give the same question with the vaccine this year, and they can ask you, explain why there are maybe too little vaccines than the social desirable level in Sri Lanka. Why they're too little? Why is this vaccine underconsumed? Right? So maybe they can put in something like that. Same question, explain using a graph on the vaccine side of it. So on your end, guys, don't memorize anything, practically understand the concepts because it will be necessary. Okay. Okay, so why is the role of government inevitable in market economy? Now we discussed that, right? What is the role of the government in a market economy? Can I skip that? Yes. Step to this one. The very first question that we did in the 2011 paper, that's what, it's the same thing, right? What does the government do? So go to you, for those who would have missed it, you can catch up with the recording later. So 2011 question 7, I think part 1, that was the first one, right? If I'm not mistaken. Hold on. Okay, so this part which we just discussed 1 hour ago. Done. Okay, outline the desirable properties of a good tax system. A very easy question, guys. What are the properties of a good tax system? Now, when they say outline, you need to explain that a little, right? You can't just write equity and stop there, right? So you need to explain what equity is. So I'm not going to into detail about explaining this, guys. I will give you explanation. I'm not going to type it, right? So you have equity. What is equity? Equity is to maintain that there is fairness, right? The tax that is imposed is fair. So under that you have vertical equity and you have horizontal equity, right? And then what do you have? You have convenience, to make sure that it's convenient to pay, right? That the tax system should not be very complex, right? The tax filing process and everything should be very convenient, easy to pay, right? Exactly. There has to be certainty. There should not be, the tax should not be every time changing every single time, right? There has to be certainty. Exactly. It has to be economical, right? The cost of collecting the taxes should be less than the tax revenue collected, right? Then you can also talk about flexibility. Taxes should be flexible. Okay. Then you can talk about efficiency. That is what the neutrality part there is, right? So likewise, guys, now remember, you can't just state. They have said outline. So you have to write at least 1 or 2 lines about these points, right? So when they say outline, don't go and listen. So when they give you 4 marks, ideally 4 points. Maybe if you're not sure about 1 point, write 5. So even if one of your points are wrong or not explained properly, they will give you the marks the next point. So that is depending on how confident you are. If you're 100% confident that your 4 points that you're writing is okay, then just stick it to 4. But if you feel, okay, this answer I'm not very sure, they might cut a mark here, write 1 additional point to back it up. So those small tricks you all need to be knowing. Okay, that's question number 4. Done. Explain in ways which fiscal policy can reduce income inequality. Fiscal policy is all about government income and government expenditure. How can you reduce income inequality using the fiscal policy? Yes, definitely taxes, right? What types of taxes? Reduce income inequality. Ideally, progressive taxes, right? So you tax the rich with a higher tax rate, and you might give that to the poor. So and also then when it comes to, let's say, taxes on goods and services, you can impose taxes on luxury goods, right? For example, vehicles. Now, who buys vehicles? Usually people who are richer, right? Now, if you look at big vehicles like, let's say, Land Cruisers to everything, right? Those kind of stuff. Then you can say maybe expenditure, right? You can talk about transfers, pensions, some of the benefits, another way, right? Then you can also talk about this providing education, healthcare, right? Government expenditure on education, healthcare, that is also reduce income inequality. Now, if you look at education, that's a long-term way of reducing income inequality. When you give free education, everyone learns. Everyone might be able to get a better job opportunity in the future, right? So those kind of things. Okay, if you look at the answer, let's see if I've missed anything. Since I already have the answer opened. Okay, here, progressive taxes, right? Social safety nets, this is what I say, pensions, some of the benefits, stuff like that, right? And then spending on education, health, okay? And then reducing opportunities for tax evasion and avoidance. Now, if you usually look at it, guys, it's the rich people who try to evade and avoid these taxes, not the poor, right? The poor people, they don't even pay taxes sometimes. They don't have to pay because the income is less, right? They don't pay sometimes. Well, that case. But if you look at these rich guys, they hide it. They have like millions and millions of taxes that they need to pay, right? But they don't really pay them. Okay, they have black money with them. So if you can avoid that, you can get that money. Okay, so that's another way of reducing the income inequality. And maybe pro-poor growth strategy. That's pro-poor growth. We study in unit number 11 and 12. What is pro-poor growth? What is pro-poor? We study in unit number 11 and 12. Economic growth and development. Pro-poor growth. Yes, pro-poor growth is where when the economy grows, right? When there is economic growth, where the poor also gets equal opportunity, right? Where the poverty levels are falling, where everyone is given an opportunity. Now, for example, now sometimes the economy is growing, but the poor person is not benefited. The rich person is only getting benefited and benefited. That is not pro-poor growth. Pro-poor growth is where the economy is growing, where the poor, right, where the poor also are given opportunities, where their living standards also increase, where they are also coming out of poverty. That is pro-poor growth. So for that, you have different strategies. Maybe if you can implement that, then also you can get make sure there is income equality. Okay, so that is what you all need to write. Are we okay there? Yes, 2013. Shape, questions, problems. Yes, right. So then we move on 2014. Again, I think an easy one. Okay, see, same question repeated. Okay, now this is a very easy question, right? So I think we can finish it off sooner. Explain the major role of the government in the market economy. Same question in 2013, same question in 2011, right? Repeated thrice in the 4 years that we did. Okay. Then classify government expenditure according to economic classification. I'm just giving this, okay? I'm hoping we all were there, you all are listening at the beginning. Okay, how do we classify this according to economic classification? Government expenditure. You have the functional classification, you have the economical classification. Economic classification. How do you classify? Exactly, you go current expenditure, right? So, okay, answer full thing. I'll go on copy and paste that. So, recurrent to current, guys, same thing, okay? Okay, so recurrent expenditure. Then you have capital and net lending and something. So, if you can put in these, right? So, capital expenditure and net lending. So that makes your answer. I think that is enough, right? You don't have to go into detail. So maybe under capital expenditure also, if you want, you can put in parts like, okay, since it's there in the chat box, copy and paste it, right? So acquisition of real capital, right? Capital transfers, all of that. So this is this, guys. Yes, functional classification is not the same really. Okay, I'll show that to you in the from the central bank report. The main heading might be the same, yes. Hold on. This is not this. Functional classification. Hold on. Find the diagram. Recurrent capital. There's a diagram usually. I can't find that diagram. Okay. So functional classification, what are the functions, guys? Under the functional classification. If they ask you the same question, they ask you the functional classification. Functional is in functional, it comes this way, right? In functional classification, yes, you have current expenditure, but then current expenditure is again broken down into parts. What are the functions? What are the 4 functions we have, guys? Check your tube. Economic, social, what else? Okay, so you have economic, right? You have social, yes, you have general public service. There's one more. Another one is other, right? I also. Yes, other service, and you have other. So it goes that way, right? Other service. So these are with divided. And again, now under capital expenditure also, you have the same thing. So under functional, that's how it's divided. So you have this, right? Now, these also just have some idea, right? Now, I think, I don't know, in some class I went through, I don't know which one, maybe a fast track, maybe a revision class. We went through each one of these. What are the economic stuff? What are the social stuff? What are the general public? I don't know where, but I taught it to someone. I'm pretty sure it's not for the 2022 batch because I've not taught them unit number 8 yet. Revision class? Okay. So I would have done that somewhere, right? I would have gone through into detail into what are the components under economic, right? What is under social. Okay. So again, functional classification, again, you have capital expenditure, right? Here also you have economic, okay? Economic, social, general public, I'll just say GP, right? Another, okay? So likewise, everything else is sorted, which you all have. Yes, how is your econ going? Studying going all right? Shape, problems, issues? so far. I know it's not, apart from those who show up on my fast track class, others, I'm hoping things are going all right. What are you all doing these days? Right, that's a functional classification. Okay, so in case they do, what should we do once your econ papers are all done? Do your actual exam and then say happy say goodbye to A-level. Unit 6 is stuck and difficult. Not that hard, guys. Unit 6 is a simple unit which I personally prefer. I prefer it more than unit number 5. Unit number 5 is a little annoying. National income accounting, but not annoying. Teaching wise, it's fine, but I think it's not that hard. It's but unit number 6, I think a lot of people mess up the MCQs, guys. The multiplier. It's very easy stuff though. MPC and multiplier. If this increases, how much does that increase? Budget balance multiplier, and stuff like that. But for some reason, I think a lot of people mess up the unit number 6 MCQs. But if you realize the same MCQ that they change values and they give, okay, then is hard. That's also okay. So we'll do the past papers. When we do the past papers in unit number 10, I think I will get okay with it. Right? Okay. So then question number part 3 of this, talking about what are the main sources of financing the budget deficit of Sri Lanka in the recent past? Guys, when they say sources, recent past, CBSL report. Right? Okay. So we look at the CBSL report. We'll see where have they taken the money from, sources of budget deficit in the recent past. So okay, financing. Previously, we can't classify figures in functional classification. Can't find figures. I think in this report is not there. I think in the previous report, like the 2019 report, it should be there. Trying to find that diagram, which I can't find. The 2020 report is, I think, very summarized. We'll find the 2019 report. Hold on. Go to 2019. That should have in detail. Right. Okay. Anyone has a physical printed central bank report? No. Physical printed one? It's 500 rupees. I bought one. Not that I read through in detail, but at least as a teacher, you need to have one. It's there. And the day I bought it, I opened and I turned the pages. After I never read. After I read the PDF usually for this thing, because you can search and all. Start from that. You have one. You need to have one at least for the show of it, saying that you are an economics teacher and if you don't have a central bank report problem. Okay. Where can I get this? Financing. Okay, financing budget deficit. Okay. So if we look at it, major sources. So in 2019, okay, so government relied most on domestic sources for financing budget deficit. So you all know, guys, there are domestic sources, there are foreign sources. So from domestic sources, it was 4.7% of GDP, and then you can look at, so it contributed 69%. So in total, from the financial requirement, 69% came from this. That means the balance came from foreign. From the thing, you have, so see, 69% came from this, 69.1% is domestic, 30.9 is foreign. And from that, composition, right? So borrowings from non-expansionary sources increase. So what are the non-expansionary sources, right? Non-banking sector. So country from the non-banking sector. Remember EPF, ETF, borrowings from their non-banking sources. Okay. So here they say borrowings from the non-banking sector increase significantly. Okay. To something, right? And the borrowing from the finance banking sector is also there. So I'll just show you things, right? So look at this. Look at in 2019, right? Our domestic banking sources are less, right? If you look at this, these change right now. See, if some years, some things are more higher. Now, if you look at in the year 2019, right? Now, this yellow is domestic banking sources. So domestic banking sources means commercial banks and central bank, right? So we have borrowed less, right? As a percentage of GDP, we have borrowed around, let's say around 1.5%, I think. Okay, so if you draw a straight line, you can find. If you look at the highest borrowings came from, highest deficit financing came from this domestic non-bank sources. You all know the domestic non-bank sources like EPF, ETF, insurance companies, right? That is where the most of the money came from. Okay. And then the balance came from foreign loans. So there is a part, somewhere around 2% of the GDP maybe came from foreign loans. So all of that, guys, is there. So now if they ask you what are the major ones, so you start off with this. You can say in the year 2019, the first major one was this, right? The first major one was domestic non-banking sources. Domestic non-banking sources, you can say, okay, places like EPF, ETF, right? And then you can say next was the domestic banking sources. So here you can say you have the commercial banks, you have the central bank. So likewise, guys, now all of this, right? Now this is like a summary about what has happened and all of it. So on your end, right, having a proper understanding about the central bank report is a must, guys. Now this chapter, right? This chapter on what? Fiscal policy in the year 2019. 2019 one is a bit more in detail, but 2020 is a little bit more updated. So have an understanding, guys. See what are the tax sources, non-tax sources, transfer expenditures, what are the percentages, what are the, where has the money come from? So all of this is important, right? Why is it important? Because you get questions from there. So on your end, make sure that you are okay with this, right? Now, if you look at, they don't have a table. Okay, so back to my question, right? So what are the main sources of finance about the deficit? You can talk of non-banking sector, that you can put in percentages also, guys. If you can put in numbers, it makes it much more sense. So you can say domestic now, according to the 2019 central bank report, domestic was 69%, right? 69.1. Foreign sources, 30.9%. So from that, from the domestic, this much percentage was this. So if you can put in some numbers and prove your answer, that makes it a very valid and a very, complete answer. So to put numbers and to prove stuff, you'll need to know the central bank report. Without knowing the central bank report, you can't really put numbers or prove anything. Okay, that's that. So go through, find out. Describe briefly the recent trends in public debt. So again, a thing that comes from the central bank report, guys, right? So if they ask you trends of public debt, if you look at public debt to GDP, what is that now? If you look at 2020, yeah, outstanding central government debt, public debt is government debt, guys. So if you look at it, recently it has been increasing and increasing. In the year 2020, and if you look at the 2020 central bank, this is 2019, okay? In the 2020 central bank report, the figure is above 100%, guys. Above 100% of GDP. That means if our GDP is 80 billion, our loans are, let's say, 85 billion. It's more than our 100. Guys, I am not saying inside our GDP there is no. That does not, because when they say as a percentage of GDP, doesn't mean inside the GDP this much is this one. Or if you say total government expenditure is around 21% of GDP, doesn't mean inside the GDP 21% is expenditure. It means compared to the GDP. Usually we give as percentage of GDP, so people can compare. They can get an idea rather than saying expenditure was 25 billion something. That's why you give percentage for a comparison purpose. So when I say central government debt is 90% of GDP, doesn't mean instead of a GDP 90% is debt, right? Get that very clearly. Okay, so we have around 90% of this thing, right? So guys, you all can give me numbers now. This is trends, right? You can say it was constant at one certain point, right? But after that, in the year 2018-19, it started to increase. Now 2020, it has gone even more than 100%. And I think the very first time that ever happened in the history. So all of these trends, guys, now again, this paragraph over here, guys, the whole paragraph, this one, this is your trend answer. This is your ideal answer for your thing, right? So you can say central bank, this one increased from this much to this much. So from 2018 it was this much, 2019 it was this much, right? So why did it happen? What are the reasons? Okay, large budget deficit. Then maybe you can even get from the 2021. Okay, this is the 2021. Okay, trends. Okay, here, this is the 2020 central bank report. So if you look at the 2020 central bank report, look at this here. So here it's above 100%, right? If you look at okay, look at this thing here. At the end of 2020, central bank debt increased. Guys, this can be a question. I also have a feeling, that very strong feeling on the central bank debt, because it increased 100% this year. Like in the last year, it increased 100%. So that can be a question that can come, right? Because that's like a significant thing. Note it down and keep. Might show up in your paper. Okay, so central government debt increased both in nominal terms and as a percentage. Where is the percentage here? Okay, they've not given the percentage here. Percentage. Okay, so yeah, debt rose to 101% of the GDP at the end of this year, compared to 86.8% at the end of 2019. So see, the 2019 central bank report is saying, yeah, at the end of 2019 it was 86 point. Now, so these numbers are important. Now, from this you can get the numbers, right? In 2018, central bank debt was 83.7% of GDP. In 2019, central bank debt was 86.8% of GDP. Okay, 86.8% of GDP. In 2020, right, it was how much? 101%, right? So it's 101.1% of GDP. So now these are facts that should come from you all, guys. These are things that you all should have maybe gone through the central bank reports, went through different details and facts that you all should have found. So those kind of things is what you put in your trend answer. When they give you, right, I'm telling you all can get trends on the debt, you all can get trends on the revenue side of it, on the expenditure side of it, right? All of that is there. So when they give you a trend question, don't just say this has increased, this has decreased, right? That does not show proper knowledge, right? When you're giving, saying it has increased, say, okay, it was this much percentage in this year, but now it is this much. It was this amount this year, now it is this much. According to Central Bank report of 2019, it says it's this, right? Maybe these are the reasons. Why has this increased? Now for 2020, the main reason because of COVID-19. Our government revenue and stuff has fallen, right? Our revenue has fallen, our expenditures increase, means our budget is in a huge deficit. So we had to borrow more. So borrowing more means our central government debt is increasing. So connect those. Don't just say, just say this increase, this falls. Give reasons. All those reasons, detailed stuff, guys, will come. It's there directly in the central bank report. Things that you all can do. If I'm telling you all, if you all are looking at answering unit number 8, right? Unless the question is very easy, usually every question will have some central bank part connected to it, right? Unless it's a very theoretical, I don't think that could happen, right? So on your end, if you're preparing for the unit number 8.1, you need to have practical facts and figures to back you up. I'm hoping you all would have made a small short note also, and those things also have, right? So on your end, right? Maybe even now it's not too late, right? Take one day. Right now, if you're definitely planning to do question number 7 in your paper, right? Take one day, go through the 2 central bank reports, go through 2017, 2018, right? Maybe have it open on your laptop, right? And make notes from those, right? Make short notes, write down the percentage, okay? What revenue, it's this much percentage, okay? Expenditure, it's this much. The budget deficit is this much. Central bank debt is this much. These are the highest components. From taxes, okay, biggest one is excise duty. From expenditure, okay, this much is this. Pensions are this much. So that kind of note, make that, so that when you're doing that, that will take one entire day, guys, if you're properly going to do it. And that is not something you can definitely do 1 week before LLs. Even now is a little too late, but I'm saying it's not too late, right? If you can find a day, if you can take one day, maybe I don't know, I think it'll take around maybe 4-5 hours. I don't know, for people who read, I don't know how long it took. And just go through, just skim through the central bank report, summarize it, because you can't go through a 30-40 page report one day before A levels, right? You can't go through that. The 30-40 page chapter, you can't go through. So if you have summarized that and brought it into one small page, maybe one A4 page, guys, have it, have it in nice different colors and all of that. Write it in different things, highlight it, paste sticky note on that paper, right? Make it nice and paste it in front of your wall and keep it. So that constantly, maybe every 2-3 days, just look at it and read it for 5 minutes. That goes into your head, guys. So those kind of things have to come from you. I can't be writing things and pasting on your wall. Okay. So look into those. If you're looking at answering this question, it's like this, right? If you want to pass this, you don't have to do all of that. But if you're looking at for something like an A, right? If you're looking at something more than an A, then yes, that central bank input is needed. Because if you're looking at getting a 40 and passing, then I will say that's a waste of time. Focus on the easy units. But I'm not teasing. I'm hoping I'm not teaching to anyone who is just looking at passing. You don't have to be putting all this effort on a Saturday morning if you're just looking at passing on your own itself. Get a note, memorize that note. You should be able to do that. Okay. This case, so compare the 2 years and see. In 2019 it was this much, 2020 it was this much. What happened? Is it increased, decreased? So ideally maybe 2018, 19, and 20 figures that y'all can figure out a trend. Has it been increasing? Has it been decreasing? So those 3 years I think is enough. 18, 19, and 20 to back you up. Has to come from your end. Okay, so those trends and all of guys, remember whenever they give you a question on this recent trends, now they will never tell you trend that on this year. What happened in this year? No, usually no. Usually they give you recent trends. So when they say recent trends means recent years. So maybe 2018, maybe 2019, maybe 2020, right? So they're not compulsorily saying that you only have to take this. So ideally, my recommendation is go with those 3 years, 18, 19, and 20. 19 is the main focus, okay? In your year, central bank, main focus is on 90. But have an idea about the 2020 also, guys. It shows the examiner that you're more updated, that you know the latest stuff. You have not memorized something that the 2019 central bank report has. You know the 2020 stuff also. Because there has been a lot of changes in the 2020 actually. Because of COVID and everything, the tax structure has changed, the government debt has gone more than 100% of GDP. Yeah. Know those kind of things. That's up to you. Right? I will not be spoon feeding it to you. I also don't have a note. If I do have a note, which I have summarized into one like a short note, I remember when I was doing A-levels, I had, but that was old years now. I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think I have that note now. So on your end, get that done. You all should be okay. Right. So we're done with the 4 papers. I think we took a little bit more time, half an hour a question. Ideally, we should be able to finish it off the next class. Right. So I'll wrap things up from here. I'm hoping you all don't have questions because I have a meeting now at 9:15, which I need to get ready and go to. So we'll start from 2015, ideally the next class, and then we'll finish off ideally with the 2020 paper from the next class itself. So next class will go a little bit more faster, whatever said and done. Next class, we will finish off the unit 8 past papers of this. So that's completely done. That means the class after that, we will be starting unit number 9 and 10. Should make it for chapter 9 and 10. Make what? Yeah, so for chapter 9 and 10 also, you can make a short note with the central bank report. Will be nice. External sector development. Okay, so that's it from me for today, guys. I'll see you all ideally fast track people. Saturday, do the paper and come. Today is Saturday. Tonight, do the paper and come. Others, I'll see you all back on next Saturday. Be wise. Right? See you. Have a nice day. You see me wearing black. I like to wear black. Hey guys, welcome.